Good morning, good morning, good morning. Welcome to today's Morning Blast with myself and Mr. Michael Brown. It is July the 9th. It is Wednesday, all day. As usual, myself and Michael will be giving you a review of yesterday, a preview of today, add a bit of value, maybe put a smile on your face, plenty of swearing, you know the rules. Before we do, I will get legals out of the way. Nothing discussed in this spaces session constitute trading or investment advice or infers any kind of endorsement by PIQ, myself, Ryan Paisley, or indeed Mr. Michael Brown. And here he is. What say you?
Here I am. Very good morning to you, Ryan. Good morning, everyone.
You good?
I'm all right, mate. I'm not too bad at all. How are you?
Not hungover?
No.
Makes a
Not
change for
not
you?
today. Friday may be a very different story, but not today. Just to
Indeed.
give you a bit of forewarning.
Especially considering our dear friend Mr. Weston is over from Australia at the moment.
He is, and it's.
You out on Friday for a few beers? He did mention Friday for some beers, let alone Thursday.
I think I will be, and it's actually his fault that I was slightly late joining this morning. So apologies for that.
Okay. No need to apologise. Were you about to say is his 40th?
What?
Were you about to say it's his 40th?
No.
Oh, okay. Oh, it's
He's
his
well.
fault
He's
that.
well over
Oh,
40.
sorry. It's
It's his
his
fault.
fault that you're late
Jesus,
today.
right.
Sorry. Got you. Sorry. I don't know what's going on. Okay. Well, look. Let's move on. No one really wants to hear about our social lives. Well, maybe
No.
they do. I don't know.
I'm not.
What's been occurring in markets?
I'm not even sure we want to hear about our social lives, to be honest.
I definitely don't want to hear what I did like many mornings about regarding the night before. So yeah.
No. Well, let's move on to much safer ground then in that case and look at where markets are. To be completely honest with you, it was a pretty barren day yesterday in terms of market moves. Equities trading pretty much a couple of tenths of a percent either side of the flat line on Wall Street. Treasuries ticking a little bit softer across the curve. The underperformance most notable at the long end, with the 30-year back within inches of the 5% handle. But elsewhere, it was pretty subdued. The FX market not going anywhere particularly quickly. The only notable mover in the G10 complex was the Aussie dollar, which was up by about 0.5%, obviously in reaction to that hawkish hold from the RBA, where markets have been expecting a 25 basis point rate cut. Despite the lack of market movement, there were a few headlines yesterday. I guess the most notable obviously come in the realm of trade. President Trump wanting to be the centre of attention as usual yesterday. The most notable remark he made was that he is planning to impose a 50% tariff on copper imports into the United States. That saw copper traded in New York rally as much as 17% after that tariff was announced, and copper traded in London fall around 3% yesterday after that announcement. Trump was also talking about the potential for semiconductor tariffs, although we don't have a date for either of those to be imposed just yet. And Trump was also saying that the August 1st tariff deadline won't be extended, and that's when countries will have to pay. Yeah, sure. The 2nd of April was when they were supposed to have to
Yeah,
pay.
exactly that.
The 9th of July today was
Well,
when
and
was never
also
going to be extended, and then it was. So
and
huge
also
pinch of salt.
as we've said before, it's kind of what do you determine about the countries that will have to pay. Maybe there might be some that do. Maybe these little outcrops full of penguins might have to pay. But as it seems to be very apparent already, as long as you're in discussions with the US and keeping Trump happy and allowing Trump to come out and say positive things, you seem to get away with it. So yeah, exactly that.
Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, the usual suspects running around going, "Oh, this means it's serious this time." Well, yeah, I mean, yeah, I will happily admit maybe one time it will actually be a serious, concrete deadline. But evidence that we've been presented with thus far would suggest that these deadlines are, as you say, very, very flexible indeed. At least if you are in active discussions with the US, with the Trump administration. On which note, we heard from the FT this morning, actually. Noting that the EU is apparently ready to sign a temporary framework with the United States, which would set reciprocal tariffs at 10% while talks continue. I think this is something we need to get used to hearing, to be honest, but just swap out EU for another trading bloc or another country. The FT also, and I'm sure this pained them to have to write this, said that the EU will get a worse deal than the UK, naturally because of Brexit. So, you can probably hear the wails of despair from the FT newsroom in the background of the recording this morning. The Japanese also continuing negotiations with the United States. Their trade negotiator Akazawa held a phone call with Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent and with Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick. They have apparently agreed to continue with vigorous talks on the issue of tariffs. No idea what needs to be so vigorous about it. But there was also reports yesterday that Treasury Secretary Bessent may be looking to visit Japan at some point, so potentially one to keep an eye on there. Of course, as we've mentioned a few times on the spaces, is Japan are moving towards upper house elections in a couple of weeks, so that may be just complicating things a little bit in terms
And
of that deal.
to be fair to Japan, they did say from like the day one, look, we haven't really got a functioning government, mate. You're going to wait for us to get someone in so we can actually make these decisions. So they have, they have been very, very upfront about this.
Yeah,
And same
no,
with South
you're
Korea, to be
absolutely
fair.
right. Yeah, and well, they've been proved correct because look where we are now. Other bits and bobs from yesterday, sticking in Washington DC, the Wall Street Journal reporting yesterday that the battle for the next Fed chair, obviously replacing Jerome Powell next May, that is between the rather weird term the two Kevins. That being, of course, Kevin Warsh, former Fed governor and arch hawk, who is now apparently a dove, and Kevin Hassett, who is currently running the NEC. Apparently Hassett met with Trump at least twice in June as with regards to taking over as chair of the Fed. They were also in this long-form piece touting the possibility that Treasury Secretary Bessent is still in the running as well. In terms of other bits and bobs from the last 24 hours or so, in terms of scheduled events, we had a 3-year Treasury sale in the United States yesterday. That tailed by 0.4 basis points. Not great, but not disastrous. That, of course, comes ahead of the 10-year sale later today and a 30-year sale tomorrow. Overnight, the Reserve Bank of New Zealand keeping rates steady at 3.25%, in line with expectations, but repeating their guidance that they do expect to lower rates further if inflationary pressures continue to ease. A couple of other headlines from me. One that I don't understand at all is apparently a company called Mistral AI are going to be raising $1 billion from MGX and other firms. Absolutely no clue. Bloomberg ran it as a hot headline, so I thought I'd just throw it in anyway. Here in the UK, the OBR, who, of course, are wrong about pretty much everything, but they issued a forecast yesterday saying that debt is set to exceed 270% of GDP by the early 2070s. Brian, you might not be around by then, but sadly, I think I will be.
Thanks.
You are
Mate,
15 years older, mate.
yeah, mate,
What
I'm
are the odds
Dorian.
on you making 90?
Well, the odds weren't great on me making 40, but I'm Dorian Gray. I'll prove everyone wrong.
Um, so the OBR saying that debt GDP is going to get somewhere near 300% over the next half a century or so. What is quite worrying is if you dig into the report, they were saying that the state pension, if we keep the triple lock on the state pension, that currently costs 5% of the UK's GDP. 50 years ago, it cost 2%. In 50 years' time, it could cost as much as 7.5%. So effectively, if the UK continues on its current trajectory, we're just going to be a country that is basically a health service and a pension scheme attached to a big island in the middle of the Atlantic. But never fear, because I'm sure Chancellor Rachel Reeves has got a plan to deal with that. Last, but by
Yes.
no... last two headlines from me this morning. Meta, they have bought a minority stake in EssilorLuxottica. That is apparently worth about £3.5 billion. Of course, they are behind all of the Ray-Ban Meta sunglasses that they've been doing recently, so perhaps one to watch there. And lastly, Bloomberg citing sources noting that after a recent share sale, the valuation of SpaceX, that is said to now be around $400 billion, billion with a B. It looks like things are rocketing higher over there.
Oh, hello. Thank you for that, Mr. Michael Brown. Let's read out some.
Oi, actually, sorry, I've got a
What?
bone to pick with you now.
Oh no, go on.
Well, while I have been speaking, posting
Yeah.
my charts without a credit.
Oh, sorry. I'll credit you in a second. Sorry. Apologies.
Liberties.
Sorry. Well, everyone knows I haven't got a Bloomberg license. I'm on the blacklist.
You wouldn't know how to use it.
I wouldn't know how to use it. I haven't got no fingerprints for the pass for the keyboard.
God.
Right. Anyway,
Move on.
moving on. So some choice headlines from the overnight news roundup. As usual, do follow Zach Eisman who puts it together. Do subscribe on the Substack, etc., etc. Starting off with trade. Obviously, Michael's flirted with some of these already. Trump's tariff delay. Trump postpones reciprocal tariffs to August the 1st, advised by Treasury Secretary Bessent and others to allow more time for trade deals. It's gone to WSJ. A US-EU deal may impose 10% tariffs on the EU, higher than the UK, with Brussels open to temporary frameworks. China's export ban bypass US imports of antimony oxides from Thailand. Yeah, good one. I'm going to take your word for that one. From Thailand and Mexico's surge, likely due to transshipment after China's export bans. This will be one to keep an eye on, especially the Mexico one, with the channels in from Mexico, because Trump has said in the past that they will clamp down especially hard on countries that allow themselves to be used for transshipments. And we do know that, it's quite heated at the best of times along that border with Mexico and the US and Trump and Scheinbaum. So one to keep an eye on there, because Scheinbaum so far has played a blinder in terms of tariff negotiations, in my opinion. But it'll be interesting to see if that gets unwound with stuff like this. The ASAN trade push. Malaysia's PM urged stronger intra-Asian trade amid US tariff concerns. China-Taiwan tensions. China added 8 Taiwanese firms to in aerospace shipbuilding and tech to its export control list over dual-use tech concerns, i.e., using some tech for military usage. Taiwan is cautiously optimistic about US talks, having avoided new tariff notifications. In macro, Fed leadership, as Michael said just now, Kevin Hassett is a contender to replace Jerome Powell, challenging Kevin Walsh. Interested to see where your money lies at the moment, Mr. Michael Brown. Who would you back? Who would you back on?
Well, it's interesting because I think we were both in the Chris Waller camp recently, weren't we? But
We were,
Trump
yeah,
now seems to
definitely.
be turning his ire to the whole board as opposed to just Powell. So I think that probably counts him out. My sort of gut feeling where we are right now, and obviously subject to change, but I would say out of those two, probably Kevin Hassett. He has been sort of side by side with Trump pretty much for a decade now, since Trump was first elected back in 2016-17. So, I think if the logical thing is, as we've said before, Trump wants his man and a yes man at the Fed. Probably not going to find someone closer to him and more of a yes man than Kevin Hassett, really.
Well, thank you for that. There you go. So, listeners, do your homework on Kevin Hassett. There you go.
He's also
Top one.
quite an odd-looking chap. I mean, I appreciate I may not be one to
Well,
talk on
quote
this,
book.
but
Yeah, I was going to say hello. Pot kettle. I can't talk. Anyway, moving swiftly on. Doge power struggle. Musk's allies vie for control of Doge as the White House seeks to limit its influence. Funny how that's all changed recently. Treasury yields. Barclays predicts a 15 to 20% higher issuance of 2 to 7 year US Treasury notes in 2027. Futures traders unwind bullish bond
2027.
bets. That's what it says here. Maybe do they mean 2026?
Zach had a
I'm
shocker.
assuming. No, it's probably not Zach. It might be, to be fair, it might just be how it's come through on when it's been summarized. Let's have a quick look. Oh, no, it says 2027.
Oh, right.
Barclays, Wall Street Journal. Yep.
Fair enough.
Yeah, there you go. Futures traders unwind bullish bond bets, pushing yields up post strong jobs data. China's economy deflation persists with factory gate prices dropping sharply. Economy projected to exceed 140 trillion won, that's $19.5 trillion in real money, in 2025. Policies curbing excess capacity could benefit equities and trade, according to Bloomberg. In global central bank news, Bank of Japan's Koida is monitoring rice price inflation, cautious of rate hikes. The New Zealand Central Bank, the Reserve Bank of New Zealand, eyes inflation risks. That's according to the Wall Street Journal. Australia's RBA, they may cut rates to 3.6 in August. Obviously, they had a surprise hold. What was it, Monday, Michael?
Yesterday,
Tuesday.
Tuesday.
South Korea's household spending spikes, complicating Bank of Korea policy. That's according to Bloomberg. In the UK challenges rising China-UK shipping costs due to US trade war may pressure consumer prices and BOE rate cut plans. RBI.
Sorry, we're assuming that BOE have a plan there.
Well, yeah, quite. The CBI, they're pushing for secondary listings to boost London's stock exchange. We need more than secondary listings.
We can't.
Um,
We're only pushing for that because we can't get the fucking primary listings.
well, this is
They're
quite,
all going to New York. That's the problem. That's all we're going to be
quite,
left with.
quite. I'm waiting for the tertiary listings, to be fair. Geopolitical developments, Ukraine support. Trump considers sending another Patriot system to Ukraine to counter Russia. In the Red Sea tensions, Houthi attacks drive up ship insurance. I believe it's now another ship is about to sink.
Oh, I think it has.
Oh, is it? I,
I think I vaguely heard Lintz at News Squawk say something in my ear about half an hour ago about it has
okay.
now sunk.
So that'd be like 2 in 2 days from what I gather.
Yeah.
Taiwan drills. Everyone has a bit of drill music. Taiwan launched its largest military exercises simulating Chinese invasion scenarios. And finally, for me, in equities and corporate moves, AI and tech, Chinese firms plan to install 115,000 plus NVIDIA AI chips in data centers, boosting computer power, but lagging the US. That's gone to Bloomberg. Supermicro expands AI server manufacturing in Europe. That's gone to CNBC. M&A and restructuring news. Merck. Oh, you've said about this one, haven't you? Did you say about this? Merck nears a $10 billion.
No, I didn't actually.
Oh,
No.
sorry. Merck nears a $10 billion Verona Pharma acquisition. That's come to the FT. And Saudi's SABIC considers selling its industrial gases unit. That's according to Bloomberg. In corporate shifts, Apple's COO, Jeff Williams, retires. Nissan halts production of 3 models in the US due to US Canada tariffs. And WPP cuts guidance amid macro uncertainty. AI regulation. California lawmaker pushes new AI regulations after prior veto. And if you've been living under a rock or you've not been on Twitter, Grok has gone very, 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 very Nazi, and it's been posting it's been posting anti-Semitic content, and basically likening itself to a AI Hitler. So I don't know what's going on there, but as I kind of mentioned this morning, if you're teaching your LMM or LLM, sorry, from Twitter, do you expect it to act any other way? Shit in, shit out, really. And that's it from me. Back to you in the studio.
Very good. Thank you, Ryan. I think we should probably move on from that one because that conversation could go down some sort of dodgy route. So we will move rapidly on to what we have lying ahead today, which is, frankly, not a lot. Once again, we have a very, very barren economic docket lying ahead for what I think is now the 3rd day running. No notable data releases in Europe or the United States, unless the weekly MBA mortgage numbers float your boat for whatever reason. In terms of scheduled events, though, as I alluded to earlier, we do have a 10-year note sale from the US at 6 o'clock this evening, $39 billion being sold off there. At 7 o'clock this evening, London time, minutes from the June FOMC meeting are due. Of course, at the June meeting, the FOMC held the target range for the Fed funds rate steady, nudged their GDP forecast lower, inflation forecast higher, and maintained the median dot to lead to 2 25 basis point cuts this year. Given that the June jobs report has effectively killed the chances of a rate cut in July, I think these minutes are going to attract considerably less attention than they would have done if they were released a week or so ago. And lastly, we are due to hear from the ECB Vice President Luis de Guindos and the ECB's Nagel as we move through the sessions ahead. And of course, market participants will also be paying close attention to any potential incoming trade or geopolitical headlines. Of course, as you just mentioned, Ryan, and as we discussed on the space yesterday, it seems like the Houthis are getting a little bit feisty again in the Red Sea. So potentially one to keep on the radar there. But that is pretty much it from me this morning.
Wonderful. Thank you very much as always, Mr. Michael Brown. I can see Cam there. Cam and me will be talking about the latest updates in crypto at 1 o'clock. And of course, we got the daily grain market blast at 2:15, all London time, because it is Great British time. Whatever you're doing today, if you're trading, keep it tight. But yeah, stay safe, and we'll see you all tomorrow. Much love.
Bye for now.